Wendy, lovely to have you back with us again.
Thank you. It's so nice to be in studio again after
absolutely.
a couple of weeks away.
Glad to have you back.
Thanks.
Before we tackle visas and rugby jerseys, we've got some feedback on a story that we covered a couple of weeks ago about the Hyundai cars and their peeling paint. And it's actually feedback from two different people. So I'll go first and then Wendy can share the story that came to her. I received an email last Friday from our listener, Derek, and I wanted to share this with you because listen to this. Derek wrote as follows. I wanted to let you and Wendy Knowler know that due to listening to your program a few weeks ago about the Hyundai i20 model with the peeling paint issue, I was encouraged to reapply to have my 2012 vehicle assessed, despite having been turned down last year. You can imagine how disappointed I was at the time. Strengthened by Wendy's advice, I emailed Hyundai Malmesbury and customer service, and I was invited to bring my car in for quotes a week or so ago. I received the good news yesterday that they are prepared to restore my vehicle as a goodwill gesture. I was, to say the least, overjoyed to hear this. Malmesbury Hyundai made me feel most welcome. Thank you, Wendy, for highlighting the issue. It pays to speak up and not give up. Derek, thank you so much for taking the time to let us know, and credit to Malmesbury Hyundai that they treated you with grace and welcoming as they should.
Because the backstory to this, of course, which we shared a few weeks ago, was that some people had been turned away by their dealerships and were still driving their cars with these huge, unsightly patches on them where the paint had bubbled and peeled, despite the fact that this is an acknowledged defect. It was a problem. The UV layer wasn't applied by the factory in India, and it affects 10 years or more i20s, mostly white ones. So then I don't know if we mentioned this, but not only are they, because I pushed them on it, not only are they now they've got the word out to all dealerships that yes,
you must make good.
Make good. But I said, well, what about those who then couldn't deal with the driving a car like that and paid out of their own pocket to have the respraying done? And they said, well, there's a process to follow, but if you can supply the invoices and your proof of payment and whatever, and your banking details, we will refund you. So that's an important thing to add. So I got an email just yesterday from Thekla of Tegerhof. And she wrote, a couple of weeks ago you discussed with Pippa Hudson the problem with white Hyundai i20 cars and peeling paint. I have the same problem with my car, and it's become so bad that I need to have it spray painted, which of course costs a fortune. You mentioned that we could approach a Hyundai dealership. Is there a specific dealership I should approach? So the answer to that, of course, and for anyone else this affects, is that no, you can approach any dealership and they will arrange an inspection of the paintwork and take it from there. The inspection, because not every paint issue is as a result of this particular defect.
Yes.
But this one is really obvious, so it doesn't take too much inspecting. And of course, as we said, Thekla will not have to pay for the respray. And then I've dealt with the issue of
those who've already done it at their own.
So that's a really good story. I believe that Hyundai South Africa is still negotiating with the factory in India, which was
actually responsible for the problem.
So in the meantime, they're paying out of their funds for this to be done. So I do feel for them, and I'm hoping that that gets restored. Of course, none of that is the customer's problem. They shouldn't have to pay for the defect, however aware of it was caused. So I'm really glad to hear that all the dealerships are now on the same page, and everyone that has this issue is not having to pay to get it resolved
out of their own pocket. Thank you very, very much for bringing it to everybody's attention. And I hope the last few customers who are still in that position will get sorted out quickly. Okay, then so to the first of our news stories today. Small rugby game happening this weekend,
Tiny
Wendy.
One,
and of course, everyone is trying to get their hands on supporters' kits so that they can literally show their colours. Unfortunately, whenever there is a surge in demand, there is a surge in scam artists waiting to take advantage.
Anything you can think of, even like new iPhone, whatever, it'll be available before it becomes available here, and of course it'll be a good price, and so it goes on. So yes, scammers are going all out to trick box supporters into paying them for mostly discounted supporters jerseys with the promise of next day delivery. Nog al. They are sponsored Facebook adverts linking to websites, claiming to be official, using fake certifications, and even going as far as to urge online shoppers to be aware of fake sites. I mean, the gall of
audacity.
it. Audacity, that's the word. So the legitimate official SA Rugby online shop tells me that the official Nike Springbok products will never be heavily discounted nor punted as a buy one get one free offer.
Okay, so it's never going to happen
It's not
from
gonna
the
happen.
legitimate supplier.
No, if you see something really well priced, no matter how many authentic looking things there are on it, and they scrape these pictures off the official site, so they look identical. You can zoom in, it looks legit, but what will tell you it's not legit is the price. And usually the same with all these. Remember your Skechers experience. Every size available the next day. Too easy. Easy.
So we have, unfortunately, a case study of somebody who fell for it in Port Elizabeth.
Yes, and he's happy for me to share so that others can learn. It was 2 Sundays ago that Matthew of Port Elizabeth was scrolling on Facebook, as one does, when he landed on an advert for Springbok rugby jerseys on sale, 50% off. So he bought one for his wife and one for himself. That was a total of 1,400 Rand. And then he paid another 100 Rand for the promised next day delivery. He says, I got payment notifications, confirmations via email, but I've heard nothing since. Surprise.
Shame.
But listen to this. Speaking of audacity, on the scammers' correspondence with him, they gave as support the email address of Signet Licensing, which is the company licensed, the legitimate company licensed to operate the SA Rugby online shop on behalf of SA Rugby. So then when the next day delivery didn't happen, the day after that or the day after that, he used that email address and he said, I have paid you.
Where's my jersey?
My jersey should have arrived in Port Elizabeth by now. And then they emailed him back to give him the sad news that he'd been scabbed. Yes. So Signet Licensing CEO Paul Zacks told me the fake Facebook pages look very similar to the official Springbok Facebook page, featuring items that identically resemble the official Springbok garments to confuse and mislead unsuspecting shoppers even more. We are actively working, says Paul Zacks, with various parties to have these fraudulent websites reported and removed.
Okay, so they're working on it, but I think the minute one gets taken down, another one springs up in a different
especially
form.
in a week
That's
like
the
this.
problem. Yeah.
Yes.
So what do we need to know to avoid getting caught, other than to be very, very skeptical about any sort of cut rate prices, Wendy?
Okay.
What do we need to know?
So the only official Springbok online store is www.sarugbyshop.co.za. So as always, check the URL. That's the first thing you should do when you've come across a great offer. But just to slightly muddy the waters, there are some online selling platforms that are authorized to sell licensed Nike Springbok products, and there are just 5 of them. Sportsmanswarehouse.co.za, Studio88.co.za, Solly M Sports, that's a Durban company, .co.za, Superbalist.co.za, and Bash.co.za. So they're all quite well known for selling this merch.
Yeah.
But again, and with any online shopping, just put your little cursor on the URL, that's the website address, and check that it matches either sarugbyshop.co.za or one of these 5.
Okay, so again, besides the official SA Rugby shop, there's Sportsman's Warehouse, Studio 88, Solly M Sports, Bash or Superbalist, and those are the only legitimate licensed retail points for the Springbok merch. If you're buying off any other site, you're not buying officially, is the bottom line.
No, and you know, if you've forgotten to look and you see what looks like the authentic merchandise, jerseys, and it's got any kind of offer or it's too cheap, that's the first thing. Do your research and find out what these things
actually cost.
Yeah, because it's all licensed up in a parcel, and they don't allow for the product to be cheapened, for want of a better word. So when you see a good deal, and the scammers do have to come at you with a good deal because it's a lure, right? But in doing that, they are exposing themselves as scammers.
Absolutely.
In this case in particular.
I'm just doing a quick check to see what the cost of them is. I mean, the Nike Springbok replica rugby shirt, so a short sleeve sort of rugby
not
jersey,
the jersey,
not
looking
the jersey,
thing,
the
T-shirt,
shirt
yes.
is 2,500 Rand. The long sleeve jersey is 1,800 rand. That's obviously these are different
Designs
and
things.
variations,
Yeah.
etc. But if you are being offered a Bach rugby jersey
Two
for a couple of 100 rand
1,400.
or
Yeah.
something like
sorry,
that,
1,400 for
then
two.
you
Yes.
know to be
Not-
incredibly suspicious. Wendy, they've also said, please, if you are caught or if you come across somebody trying to offer you this, they want you to let them know.
Yes, so I think they get a good idea from certainly Matthew's scammers who made sure that anyone complaining was going to go straight to them. But not everyone, there's more than one scammer out there.
Yeah.
So if you have been caught, the email address to report that to is info@signet, SIGNET -licensing.co.za.
Okay, so signet-licensing.co.za, they are the official license partner for the official Springbok online merch. So again, if you come across this kind of, Wendy, thank you very much for alerting us to this
Yes.
particular problem, because as you
Pleasure.
say, a couple of days away from a big game, everybody's suddenly
Fever.
waking up going,
Yes.
oh, I'm going to a rugby party, I need a jersey.
And also, what's on that sarugbyshop.co's site is a long one of questionable websites.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's nice.
So double check it's not on there as well.
Yes.
Okay. Before we move on to the Irish visa story, there is a voice note responding on the issue of the scam artists taking advantage of Springbok rugby fans. Let's take a listen.
Papa, good afternoon. Floris here from Worcester. Talking about fake Springbok jerseys. I hope there will not be any fake tries. No personal attack on Bongi Mnambi. But Papa, let's be honest. Manufacturers, this time of the year or whenever there's a Springbok tour, especially countries coming into South Africa, manufacturers are putting these high prices that it almost comes impossible for us ordinary citizens to buy a real genuine Springbok t-shirt or jersey. And the fake ones, man, let me tell you, some of them looks much better than the original ones. Not that I'm supporting piracy, but yeah, what can you do? Have a good day, bye-bye.
Thanks, Floris. When do you like to respond?
So that's a slightly different thing. We're talking fake jerseys rather than out-and-out scams where they are advertising jerseys that don't
Actually
exist.
yeah.
So they're going to take all your money. I do hear that. I mean, I can't afford those.
Yeah.
So I will go to... the last one I bought for the World Cup was from Cape Union Mart, and it didn't have any of the protected official stuff, but it's green and it's got the South African flag and it's got a picture of Madiba on the back, and it
does
made
the
me
job.
Feel, It does the job, and so I think there are ways around it. But if you want the official merchandise, well, this is a big business, and fair in every country. That situation exists. So, I mean, if you can't afford the real one, then just wear any old green and gold. You're still wearing your colours.
I've got my Springbok socks ready for Saturday. The only problem is it's winter, so I'm going to have to take my shoes off to show everybody that I'm wearing them.
My shirt has got short sleeves, so it's always worn with something underneath, but worn it is.
The best purchase I ever made was a pair of arm socks with the South African flag on them, and they are literally stockings that you pull onto your arm.
That's fantastic.
In the colours of the flag, so you can wear them underneath the t-shirt, and those will come out for yet another outing on Saturday for sure. But point taken, Floris. Yeah, it is an expensive purchase. There's no getting away from the fact that the genuine article is a pricey buy, but just please be mindful of the fact that what many of these sites are offering is not only not a genuine article, it doesn't exist anywhere.
Like so much
genuine
for
or
sale
fake.
online.
Yeah. All right, and so on to a story that others may well believe is also linked to rugby, Wendy. The new requirement that we have to have a visa to visit Ireland.
The timing was unfortunate, wasn't it?
If listeners recall, it was only a matter of 2 or 3 days, I think, in between the Springboks beating Ireland at Loftus and Ireland announcing that henceforth we would require visas to visit them. What caught everyone by surprise was, A, there'd been very little to no warning at all that this move was coming. And then secondly, there was a very short window of sort of leeway for those whose travel plans were immediately impacted because they were already in place.
You only deal with VFS Global, and they can't help you with anything.
Yeah.
So as a customer, as someone who's
Been
paying
there.
it as a service, they're a service provider. You have no power or ability to communicate or anything. You just wait for that SMS to come or not come, to say, please collect your passport at.
Wendy, I'm awaiting the torrent of WhatsApps I know is about to come, because so many people have been in the position. I was in this position 2 years ago. I'm sure you remember when I was trying to juggle a British visa for my son's exchange simultaneously with a Schengen visa for another trip. And every time I went back and stood in that queue, it was full of people literally weeping because they were 2 days away from the family wedding or whatever event it was that they were going to, and they could not get hold of an individual to answer their questions, to give them feedback. So it's a long-standing issue. In this case, though, the one thing that is nice is they actually gave you a contact at the Irish embassy to speak to, Wendy.
I must commend them. I said, please, in that case, I understand it's a bitly disappointing answer, but can you at least give me a contact at the embassy? I tried everything. There was nothing media, no way. So she did. This is the representative of VFS Global. She gave me the name of Evan Cunningham, who is second secretary at the Embassy of Ireland in Pretoria. So I asked him, what is the current average time taken from the date of submission of documents to VFS to a passport being ready for collection, speaking specifically, obviously, about the Irish visa. Since the Irish visa requirement was announced, he said over 2,600 visa applications, and that was last week, have been received by the Department of Justice in Dublin, who have established a dedicated South Africa visa desk to manage this new visa requirement. Right?
That's very interesting.
It is.
I'm surprised by how large that number is, Wendy.
Yeah.
Although I suppose it is the Irish summer, the sort of 2 weeks of sunshine they get. But I'm surprised by that number. The fact that they've actually established a dedicated desk tells you how many people have been caught in this sort of in-between phase.
Exactly. So what happens is visa applications and passport dispatch are facilitated through VFS Global, which we know who operate 3 visa application centres, Pretoria, Joburg and Cape Town. Due to the volume of demand and as a temporary measure to facilitate existing travel arrangements, the Department of Justice is currently prioritizing applications based on the date of travel. So Erica was right. And interestingly, initially, Evan Cunningham, who's with the Embassy of Ireland in Pretoria, told me the statement is going to be coming from the Department of Justice in Ireland. And I thought, yay, because I will have
an actual official
an email address.
Yes.
But no, they changed their mind, and I think I know why. So it came from the embassy in Pretoria, which can't help me with anything
because they don't want anybody circumventing them. Okay,
pretty much.
So what did the feedback say?
I also asked what time frame is the embassy aiming for, and when is that likely to be achieved, just to manage people's expectations here, right? Given that you can't get any information along the way once you've submitted your documents. The answer was the embassy is not involved in the processing of applications for visa required nationals living in South Africa. All decisions are being made by the dedicated South Africa visa desk in the Department of Justice, Dublin, Ireland. The Department of Justice are working to ensure all travellers have a decision on their application prior to their date of travel, so that you'll at least be told, well, you'll yes or no and get your passport back, I guess. But I really do have to work very, very hard, make it a mission of mine to get a contact at the Department of Justice at that South Africa, what do they call it? The South Africa desk, Africa visa desk. Because VHS can't say anything. The Irish embassy here, which would be the normal situation, can't say anything.
Yeah.
So I really am disappointed that I at least wasn't given a time frame that they are wanting to settle on once this initial
That's going to be the norm.
rush of Yes, so a bit of a dead loss all round.
I'm just thinking also, I'm surprised Erica wasn't offered the option to pay an extra fee to keep her passport, which is what I've done in the past where I've been in this situation.
Well, they said they didn't give an indication, and then I think this also was a lapse. She wasn't told when she said, I wanted, please can I have it by the 9th of August. She wasn't
because
told.
Please
understand that they're actually going. There's a big rush of applications, and they're prioritizing people based on their departure to Ireland, not to any other place that you might be needing your visa for your passport for rather. In the meantime, as in this case, a trip to Botswana. Yeah. So in the end, Erica had to cancel her Botswana trip. She said, we did manage to make some last-minute bookings in the Kalahari, and we had a lovely time with wonderful sunshine, wonderful sightings, and we missed the last Western Cape rain. I don't know if it is the last, but she says, but I do think the communication from the Irish Embassy and VFS is not up to standard. A colleague of mine travelled from VFS in VFS in Cape Town last week to collect both our passports. When arriving there, she was told that my passport had been delivered at work and her passport at her husband's office. That after she phoned numerous times and sent several emails to inquire about the process. So a wasted trip. But in the end, she did get her passport. She departed for
Dublin
today. In fact, she got 2 passports because the other one was issued, but not in time for Botswana.
To the point of communication, though, listen to this. Joyce has just WhatsApp to say it's such a shame that because of the illegal actions by some people seeking asylum or whatever the reason may be, thousands of legal tourists are being punished in this way. I don't think I'll be traveling to Ireland anytime soon because they've made it very unattractive for legal travelers. She says a family member of mine has just recently applied for the visa and it was the worst experience she's ever had. And trust me, she's applied for visas to many different countries. More than 30 days to get a visa, only for the period required. Well, that's all they're obliged to do. I think that's pretty standard. But she says a family member has a daughter living there. She has been to and fro to Ireland on many occasions in these past few months. Wrote in asking for a long-term visa in case there's ever an emergency and she needs to get to her daughter quickly. Submitted letters to support her request, but you're told not to buy an air ticket before you get your visa, which is ridiculous. Who in their right mind would purchase a ticket at the last minute? 30 days or more to get a visa and then to be treated with a couldn't care attitude if you query anything. Joyce's comment is, I think it's a cash cow with no consideration for legal travelers, is her comment. Yeah, I mean, we've all had those stories. We've all had the frustration. It's not unique to the Irish visa process, I will say that. It's also not unique to VFS alone, although I will say I've had my fair share of extreme frustrations there. I hear yours, Joyce. Wendy, it's just the rush because of the way it was communicated so suddenly. You know, it wasn't like in 6 months' time we are going to start implementing a visa requirement. Or
Which
in a
would have been
year's time
fairer.
even, which you would have expected would be the reasonable thing to do.
Exactly.
It was this 10th of July, and as of August,
Small little leeway if you've already got travel plans.
Yeah, we'll try and fit you in kind of thing. That caught everybody, and I think is creating this mad rush that is now caught in the backlog. Erica wasn't the only case you dealt with either.
Another Cape Townian, Vanessa Bates, contacted me early last week to say that she was very worried she wouldn't get her passport back in time for her departure to the UK this past Friday, the 30th of August. And from the UK, she was then going off to Ireland, but obviously she needed it by Friday. On the 14th of July, she applied for her visa online and she used VFS to submit all her documents. Her appointment was only on the 30th of July, so that's 2 weeks later, right? 2 wasted weeks. She received an SMS to say that her visa application was dispatched to Pretoria the following day and another to say it was received in Pretoria on the 6th of August. Since then, she wrote, 3 weeks later, silence, absolutely nothing. Every time I try to call the Irish Embassy, the phone line's cut and it never connects. I also emailed 2 different email addresses and no one replies. Perhaps a recorded message saying what Evan told me, that we can't help you. It's all sitting with the South African visa desk in Dublin. Stop trying or something would have helped. But anyway, last Wednesday, Vanessa contacted me to say, I heard this morning that my visa was approved after a huge runaround yesterday, calling, emailing, following up. I actually had to get someone in Pretoria to go to the Irish Embassy this morning to follow up and collect my visa and passport because they are impossible to get hold of. She got her passport the following day, a day before her departure. This was a horrible experience, to say the least, very stressful. So I emailed her to say, so glad you got your passport and you were able to fly. I think I emailed her on Saturday. Please share with me exactly what you did. Because it might help others, but she's obviously having a lovely time in the UK, not checking your emails. So I haven't heard, but all we can say is, well, let's hope that the processing time does shorten
once they get over this initial scramble,
and that I get some kind of in with a media contact in Dublin.
Yeah, as Jeff is saying, it really requires a person at that desk in Dublin who can go to the SA desk in Dublin, or someone who on that end who can go and help by physically going in.
I also think it's a bit of a, Vanessa ended up dealing with the embassy in Pretoria, but they're saying they've got nothing, we know nothing, they're doing a manual.
And it's such a shame because once you get to Ireland,
It's
Wendy
so
and I was there
lovely.
2 years ago.
I
They are the most
know.
wonderful, warm, hospitable, welcoming people.
And for me, I mean, I was
Um,
last there 5 years ago with my sister. My mother's side's all Irish. We not enough, not close enough to get the passport. But,
oh, no,
but
such
it
luck.
was just so lovely to be able to go and not go through the schlep. Okay, a little bit of interrogation at the airport, but that's to be expected.
Yeah.
I feel actually personally quite gutted about this whole thing.
I wonder if anybody else listening has been impacted by this. You are very welcome to send us a WhatsApp voice note or text. Tell us what happened, how long it took to get your visa back, what were the frustrations. Interesting. Paul asking, can you have two passports at the same time?
I also thought that.
You can. They do. It's not common, but it can be done, particularly for people who travel frequently. For exactly this kind of scenario, for you have to have one passport in getting visas.
She'll never have this problem again, Erica.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's done easily, but it can be done. And you have to be able to justify
who's quite
why
quickly.
you need it.
Yeah, not quickly enough. to
Yeah,
get to
it's
Botswana.
not like
Okay,
you've
good
got
to
to.
All right.
Having been through the process,
Yes.
you've got to submit quite a lot
Okay.
of documentation in support of explaining why you would need a second one. Okay, Wendy, quick one. An email from Nicole, and this goes to Open Line on a completely different subject, but Nicole mailed me yesterday,
Yeah.
and she wants to know your view. She said, I recently tried to return some chocolates to Clicks. I had the till slip. They were still in the carrier packet and unopened, but I was told I couldn't return them, which surprised me because my regular supermarket would simply refund if you had the slip. I was told, look at the back of the till slip. It says consumables cannot be returned. And Nicole went off and did her research and says, yes, absolutely. I can see that chocolates would fall under the category of consumables. And but her point is this. She says, I feel they should have a poster at all tills explaining the returns policy and giving the customer a choice as to whether to purchase the items there or not. One would not necessarily have a till slip prior to purchase, and their policy is more onerous than other supermarket chains. I would be interested in Wendy's view.
I don't think it is more onerous, although her research might have indicated otherwise. First of all, what's important to note is that, as we've said so many times on this show, that if you buy something in a store, unless it's defective, in which case you have 6 months to return it for your choice of a refund, replacement, or repair, unless it's defective, you have no right of return at all, whether it's consumable or not.
Yeah.
Right? But in the case of consumables, I think it would be irresponsible of stores to take them back. Just as there was this case on Twitter or X, this woman sent her son to buy basics from Woolies, and he came back with the milk, but it wasn't the free range milk or whatever, and she took it back the next day and they wouldn't take it back. And it was quite encouraging to see a whole lot of people on Twitter saying, but I wouldn't want to buy milk on the shelf that I thought someone had taken to their home in whatever condition. I mean, Woolies lives and dies on its
That cold
8-minute cold chain thing. 8 minutes out and it doesn't get sold. So now they must take back milk which maybe sat in a car for 30 minutes in the summer, whatever the case may be.
And you took a phone call as you came inside,
Apart
so
from
it sat
which,
on the counter for 10 minutes at
how
home.
wonderful for some malicious, demented person. What an opportunity to then insert some poison or something else.
And return it to the shelf.
And return it, inject those chocolates. I'm not suggesting for a minute, Nicole, that you did anything like that, but the possibility is there. And so I wouldn't want a retailer to take back those chocolates
kinds
or
of
any
items,
other
yeah.
food item that's been out of the store, because anything could have happened. So, some might take it back, but I don't think that would be good policy. And I'm all for consumer rights.
Yeah, but there's a food safety issue
There's
here
a food
at
safety
the bottom
issue.
line. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And as I say, not having to take back goods that are not defective applies to all goods bought. Many stores have policies, voluntary policies, where they do, and they impose their own terms and conditions, and that's fine. I will agree with Nicole, though, and that this our right of return as consumers is very much dependent on whether the product was bought, whether the product is a change of heart, you don't want it anymore for whatever reason, or it's defective. and 2, whether it was bought online or not online. If it's bought online, we have that 7-day cooling off period, but it doesn't apply to a lot of things like subscriptions and food and all the rest. But I think they could be doing a better job by means of signage in their own stores of making this distinction clear. And I've been suggesting it for years. What a returns policy. A, defective items. B, change of heart. We're not legally obliged to take it back, but we do under these circumstances. You've got your till slip, it's not consumable, blah, blah, blah. And then people would get to understand the differences and but they don't do it.
And put it up in the place where people queue,
Yes.
where you've got a captive audience.
And put it on the till slip.
Yeah,
But they
in
don't.
there. But who reads their till slips, Wendy?
Yeah,
How many
but
people
a
read their
signage
till
would be
slip? Yeah.
better. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that point, Nicole, about signage.
Okay, thank you for that. One last tip from Viv, who says if you are looking for Bok-ish merchandise, Pick and Pay clothing have got a good range. So it won't
good
be
to
the
know.
official, it won't have
Course
the
not.
official
And they've-
logos and things on it, but in proximity to, if you're
Yes.
looking for a less expensive way to show your colours on Saturday. And yes, Errol, we know you'll be wearing your all black shirt. That's okay. We love you anyway.
This is Cape Town.
But thank you for that tip, Viv. So if anybody is still looking, that is an option. Please rather go that route than fall for the scam artists who are promising you a 500 Rand Bok jersey
Tomorrow.
to be delivered tomorrow. You've heard it from Wendy's mouth. Don't fall for it. Wendy, as always, thank you so much. And we look
Pippa.
forward to chatting to you again next week, Wednesday.
Of course.